The other thing is that a lot of protein or heavy proteins and a lot of heavy protein diets push the body into a state of acidosis, which is not what we want at all on the fast metabolism diet. It will typically push you into weight loss, but it'll never get you to repair. Hi, I'm Haylie Pomroy, and we're going to talk about in-depth repair on the fast metabolism diet. This is probably one of my favorite DVDs. We're going to talk about how to unwind stress, how we're going to use food to unlock stored fat, and how we're going to unleash the burn of your metabolism. I want to talk about the science behind the fast metabolism diet, how I came up with this program in the first place. I want to go into a little bit deeper discussion about the strategic phases on the diet. I want to talk to you about how your body systems work and how those systems actually affect the metabolism. I want to give you the secrets behind getting a fast metabolism so that you can understand fully the link between the metabolism and weight loss and the metabolism and the health you desire. So let's kind of science geek out here for a moment, and let's go a little bit deeper into each of the phases. As you know, each week in the fast metabolism diet, there's 4 weeks to rehab, right? Each of those weeks have cycle on a 2-2-3 rotation. What I mean by that is there's 2 days of phase 1, 2 days of phase 2, and you finish each week with 3 days of phase 3. Each one of those phases aren't there mysteriously. I actually put those there strategically so that we could repair what's wrong in the body so that each week can actually build upon the next. So in phase 1, I'm really working on the adrenals and I'm really working on the stress hormones. We're working a lot on the hormones that stimulate cravings and addictions in the body, the serotonins, the dopamines. We're working on the adrenals and the cortisol, but we're also working on aldosterone, which is another adrenal hormone that primes the body to lay down healthy muscle. And remember, muscle scavenges so much more fat. When you think about it, muscle has to move around all day long, and our fat simply just sits there, unfortunately. And then in phase 2, we're going to work a lot on the liver and the gallbladder, how the body regulates or distributes sugars, but also how it emulsifies historical fats and detoxifies the toxins that our body uses those fat cells for. Our fat cells are like garbage bags. They're like reservoirs of toxins that our bodies couldn't process out. And then in phase 3, we're going to talk about the hormones. I like to talk a lot about the thyroid with phase 3. So many people have thyroid disorders. People have low thyroid, high thyroid, Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune associated with the thyroid, a reverse T3 elevation, which is sometimes also considered autoimmune, but it's when the body starts to create a thyroid hormone that we like to call it an imposter. The body thinks it has plenty of thyroid hormone, but your body can't actually use it in that form. So those are the 3 phases. And if you think about it, I laid them out very strategically. This wasn't something that just kind of fell into place. I first wanted to lower stress, right? In order for the body to trust me, and in order for me to actually get you to do something, your body to do something, I had to say, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. You're going to have everything you need. It's going to be there in a flash, and it's going to be delicious. Then, once I've got your body kind of seduced in that everything's going to be okay, that's when I say, okay, it's okay. You know it's okay. I've provided everything that you need to show you that it's okay. Now I want you to let go. That's why phase 1 comes before phase 2. Because if I were to just say, jump, let go, and I weren't to have reassured your body that it was all going to be okay, that it was going to provide you everything that you needed, your body would look and react to this program like I had gone absolutely mad. But at the same time, phase 2 comes before phase 3 for a reason. So when we talk about phase 3, working on the hormones and repairing the hormones and stimulating the hormones, our body has to have fats in order to create hormones. And the liver actually has to be functional in order for our hormones to be functional. So we can produce all the estrogen and the progesterone and the testosterone that we want. But until the liver makes it bioactive or actually turns those hormones on, those hormones can't bind in our receptor sites and they actually can't do anything for our bodies. So phase 2 had to come before phase 3. Because if I hadn't supported and nourished the liver, if I hadn't used micronutrients to stimulate liver detoxification and the liver's ability to turn on hormones, and suddenly I opened the fire hydrant and stimulated all those hormones, what would happen? Your body would think I had gone absolutely mad. I had said, come on, create hormones, even though you're stressed out because I didn't support phase 1. You don't have the capacity to turn them on or make them magical or make them work. And I just run in there and I start stimulating them. And this is one of the problems with a lot of diets. Like when individuals jump on these really low carb crash diets, and it forces the body. Some people even go into ketosis for days and days and days. I know a lot of you probably are familiar with this, is those keto strips. And you bring your body's carb count down so low that your body becomes desperate to release the fat. But that desperation is going to come back to bite you because you didn't first say it's all going to be okay. I can put a gun to you and say, turn over your cash. Or if I were an investor, I could gain your trust and I would say, I'd like you to invest in me. You would gladly turn over your cash. That's the way the body sees it when you do a stress diet to release fat versus a nurturing diet to release fat. So after we go into phase 3, why do I have you cycle right back up to phase 1? It wasn't something that just happened to work on a piece of paper. Remember, I'm in clinical practice first and foremost. If this doesn't work, I don't have a successful business, right? So after you've produced all these hormones and the liver's been nurtured and it can actually convert it, that's a lot of work. And creating healthy hormones and stimulating healthy hormones and utilizing healthy hormones is a little bit stressful. So we do it for 3 days because it's so important, it's so impactful. And the hormones are like this kind of etherical thing that make everything work in the body. We've got to dedicate that time for repair, but we've got to come right back up and nourish the stress. Getting the body to trust us more and more and more so that in phase 2, after phase 1 again, your body's so excited to release the fat. It says, oh my goodness, you've made me lots of money with my resources. You've given lots of energy with my resources. I'm more than happy to turn it over to you. And then you go right in, as you've repaired the mechanism of the liver, you go right in and you say, okay, confidence is there, the ability to turn fat into fuel, so money into more money. You can then go in and you can create even more healthy balance of the hormones. When you have healthy fats, it allows your body to utilize fat-soluble vitamins, so like vitamin D. Fat-soluble vitamins, I always remember a deck of cards, A, D, E, and K, okay? The foods are very rich in those nutrients. One of the unique things that fat-soluble vitamins do, everybody talks about antioxidant properties, meaning that they lower inflammation, they help buffer cell damage. But the other thing that fat-soluble vitamins do is they actually wash the receptor sites for your hormones. So what that means is that you can produce a hormone, let's say it's a functional hormone, but on the other end of that hormone, there needs to be a glove to catch the ball, right? Let's say that you've got a mitt full of mud and someone throws a ball, you're not very likely to catch it. So those fat-soluble vitamins actually wash those receptor sites so that you can make a perfect catch with those hormones. One of the things that's so important, this is why phase 2 comes before phase 3, is that in order for your body to extract fat-soluble vitamins from the food you eat, this is why I talk about people can eat so healthy, but if their metabolism's broke, they don't get the nutrients out of the food, is because if the liver isn't working properly, if it doesn't have the right micronutrients, and the liver's the one organ, or they say that the liver is the organ that's the most influenced by food, just so you know. If the liver's not functioning properly, you actually can't extract those fat-soluble vitamins from your food that you then want to use on phase 3 to make the receptor sites or wash the receptor sites for your newly released hormones. So it did take me 20 years to kind of figure all this out, a lot of hit and misses, a lot of experimenting in my research lab that I call my clinic. But I want you to understand how important it is that phase 1 comes before phase 2 and phase 2 comes before phase 3, and that you cycle back up. I want to go a little bit specifically into each of the phases. So in phase 1, we understand the concept that we're really working a lot on the adrenals. The adrenals are part of, in Chinese medicine, what they call the triple warmer, which is aspects of the brain, the pituitary hypothalamus, the thyroid and the adrenals and the ovaries and the testicles, all work together. They're kind of symbiotic. The rhythm, they communicate with one another. If one's out of balance, it's very difficult for the other to be in balance. The adrenals are kind of this, in that triage, in those 3 parts of the body, the adrenals hold a really unique place because they're kind of our body's first line of defense. When our bodies experience pleasure, the adrenals are the first there to let you know that the experience is pleasurable. When our bodies experience stress, they're the first responder to let you know that there's stress or danger or crisis. So they're kind of like the accelerator on the gas, you know. I'm not a great mechanic per se, but it kind of lets you know whether to punch it or pull back, and they're very adaptive, which means that if you have a lot of stress, a healthy functioning adrenal response should be to excrete more epinephrine, norepinephrine, corticotrophic hormones. If you have a little bit of stress, it's supposed to just barely push on the gas pedal. But years of chronic dieting, oppressive stress, horrible foods, what so many people that's metabolism's off happens is that the adrenal's ability to react appropriately becomes off. So when you have all kinds of excitement and joy and you're at a grandchild's graduation or a wedding or something like that, you feel dull. Because like I said, it also responds to pleasure, not just stress. But your body doesn't have the ability to kind of really excrete those hormones that let you feel, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, that let you feel joy and love and pleasure. On the other side, oftentimes, because their regulator is off, when you have stress, and maybe it's not the end of the world, your body responds as if it is the end of the world, as the end of your world. And so you can find yourself, being very quick to reaction. You can find yourself, quick to tears, quick to anger. That's another really good indicator that your body's adrenals, that regulator, is off and needs support. So in phase 1, we use a lot of the complex carbs because there's a lot of B vitamins in those. And again, so many people, especially women, but also men as of recent, are doing all these crazy diets that have 0 carbs in them or almost no carbs. Even vegetables have carbs, so we can't say 0 carbs per se. And what we find is that we've got an environment, a society that's not really conducive to the adrenals getting all loved up and lots of support. And then we go on these crazy diets that even depletes it more because B vitamins are so crucial in adrenal function that the regulator becomes off. And so we can't really trust ourselves or our reactions, to life's happenings, but our bodies start to not be, have that same reaction that you had had to dieting in the past. So I get a lot of clients that say, oh my gosh, anytime I need to lose a little weight, I've got a high school reunion, a college reunion, a graduation, a party, a bar mitzvah, I used to always have these tricks. And I would do, no carbs or no fat or something like that. Your metabolism is off. When suddenly those tricks, your body's regulator, it doesn't have the same response as it used to. So that's an indication that, okay, my adrenals aren't getting what they need right now. The other thing that a lot of people in clinic kind of talk about, and I always go, ooh, I can't wait until you get, through phase 1 a couple times, is their reaction to food. So they say, I never quite feel full and I never quite feel satisfied. Nothing really tastes very good to me. I'm not really craving anything, or maybe I'm craving sugars and carbs, especially in that 3 or 4 o'clock afternoon time. That's the time when the adrenals kind of take a natural little bit of a slump. So if your regulator's off, your slump is going to be a big slump. If you find yourself going to those carbs or the cookies or the potato chips, don't beat up on yourself. Don't get angry with yourself. Say, I hear you. I get it. We need to be extra careful with phase 1 on you. So we're doing the carbs, but we're also combining that with a lot of fruits and vegetables. Super rich in vitamin C. And I know that we talk about vitamin C for the immune system. We talk about vitamin C being antiviral. There's new studies about vitamin C playing a significant role with cancer and cancer therapies. But one of the things that vitamin C does is it's really nurturing to the adrenals. It's very supportive. It's not stimulating, which so many people take stimulants when they're tired, even in the form of herbs. And that's, I think, when a person's adrenals are stressed, that's actually pretty cruel. But it's actually nurturing and restorative. So foods like you'll see in the 7-day makeover, I talk about having an orange in the afternoon. That's not just because I thought, oh, oranges sound yummy in the afternoon. I was actually looking for something that had easy access sugars, but was really rich in vitamin C, and especially again in that afternoon time when you're having that adrenal slump anyway. So I'm pretty strategic about what I put in, where and why, if you're kind of starting to get the hang of that. The other thing that's kind of unique in phase 1 is that, sometimes people get a lot of different cravings when the adrenals are off. The adrenals are really an important component with addiction, sugar addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. And so we've put a lot of the fun kind of desserts and things in there that give you kind of stimulate that pleasure and that celebratory effect so that you don't feel like you're being deprived. You're not being deprived, you're being nourished, but so that you can kind of have some of those, I would say, support mechanisms or tools that nurture the body, but also make you feel like you're kind of celebrating. Because if we're trying to support that regulator, it's not just the bad. It's not just that you're fatigued, that you get exhausted. You're tired and wired, you get exhausted in the afternoon, you can't sleep deeply, but it's also on the other end. We've got to support both ends of the spectrum. Balance is where we're striving. Too high or too low is where pathology or disease occurs, okay? So I really strategically use things in phase 1 that make you experience joy just by the act of eating it or seeing it or looking at it. Sorbets and smoothies and ices and things that are just kind of fun and enjoyable to do. And then in phase 2 of all the phases, and I will say it is the most limiting. The grocery list is a little bit smaller. We're missing our complex carbs, but it's only 2 days in the week. It's only 2 days. You can do anything for 2 days, but I also don't want you to think about that you're refraining. The reason why I pulled those out is because I need to work really hard on nurturing the liver. And the liver is very what we call amino acid dependent. So when we take in proteins, we have to be able to break them down into small building blocks called amino acids. And so the function of the liver, like I talked about in one of the lectures, cytochrome P450, phase 2 of liver detoxification, is amino acid dependent, which means it's dependent on your body's ability to take protein and convert it into amino acids in order to function healthfully. And again, the liver is what makes the magic happen. In fact, they say that there is no micronutrient, no vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin D. There's no nutrient that can be utilized in the body unless it's efficiently processed by the liver. And then the liver is amino acid dependent. So we've got to have a way to get proteins in. You can do it, with animal-based proteins, with vegetable-based proteins, but we've got to have a way to get amino acids in to support the liver. So I really want to get the carbs out of the way for a minute. I want to get the fats out of the way for a minute so we can just focus on strategically nourishing and repairing this area. So it's not that you're not going to have it. You're going to have it the whole rest of the week, 5 days a week. But it's that we need to kind of take this time to nourish that mechanism in the body that makes everything bioavailable for our lives. So in order to take protein molecules and break them down into amino acids, we have to have certain enzymes. Enzymes that are plant-based, so from our vegetables. That's why I've got a copious amount of vegetables on this. Those help break down the protein into smaller particles called amino acids to make available for the liver. So the other thing is that a lot of protein or heavy proteins and a lot of heavy protein diets push the body into a state of acidosis, which is not what we want at all on the fast metabolism diet. It will typically push you into weight loss, but it'll never get you to repair. So that's why we put all of the alkaline vegetables, and the vegetables are unlimited. You cannot do too many of those. And in fact, if you're checking your pH and your body, your urine or your saliva or your urine has become acidic, that's an indication that your body crying out that you're actually not getting enough food, you're not getting enough vegetables. So don't think about what you're not having on this phase. Really focus on what's happening, that you're nourishing the liver so that it can make all of the hormones that you produce bioactive or available for you. So then let's talk about phase 3 a little bit more in depth. So there's a couple things that happen in our hormone production. One, we produce hormones, we excrete hormones, and we have to actually manufacture those hormones. And the building blocks, just like the building blocks for protein, right, and the building blocks for muscle or amino acids, the building blocks for hormones are fats or healthy fats. The fats in our hormone systems, there's things that are called prostaglandins. They're kind of broken down in 3 categories: prostaglandin 1, 2, and 3. Those hormones are either pro-inflammatory or anti-inflammatory. You'll hear kind of PG1 and 3 and PG2 talked about a lot if you decide to study hormones for some reason. So the thing that's really important in this is that we have to have the building blocks to secrete the hormones, but we also have to have the receptor sites clean, like I talked about the fat-soluble vitamins. Our pH has to be stable so that we can actually absorb those micronutrients from the blood into the cell. But we also have to have fat to burn fat. So when we consume fat, it stimulates the bile production to pool in the gallbladder. If you don't have a gallbladder, the liver still produces the bile salts. It just doesn't pool there. It just comes into the GI tract a little bit differently, a little bit more at a steady stream instead of being secreted when fats are there. The body has to support the pancreas and its proteolytic enzymes, the pH buffering enzymes, but also to help balance blood sugars. So that's why if you notice in phase 3, I actually have a complex carb at breakfast and I have a complex carb at dinner, but I've pulled it out in the middle of the day. That's not a mistake. What I'm strategically doing there is elevating your glycemic level in the morning so it stimulates more of the pancreas, it stimulates more of the proteolytic enzymes that start to break things down. And then in the middle of the day, snack, lunch, snack, I actually pull all the complex carbs out, elevate the fat, and elevate the vegetables. And I do that so that the body doesn't have quick access fuel, the carbs on either end, but it has to work very, very hard to burn fat so that it's primed and ready to burn the newly released fat that just came from phase 2. So again, it's strategic. And that's why also I tell people if they get a little bit stuck on phase 3 to make sure that you add a vegetable with your snack. So you can have a handful of almonds, let's say for example at 4 o'clock. But if you're a little bit stuck, I want you to do celery and almonds or hummus and cucumbers or celery and almond butter so that we combine those things together. Because remember, fat is really hard to break down. The vegetables are like kindling to add to the fire. The protein's like logs. They're building blocks. And the carbs are like gasoline. But if we put too much gasoline, we'll dampen the logs, we'll put out the fire. So I've got those strategically placed on either end because I want to make sure that you continue to be able to burn through carbs because like I talked about, they're so important for anti-depression hormones. They're so important for quick-acting energy, memory, and cognition. But I want that period in the middle of the day where your body's scavenging fat aggressively, newly released fat, but also breaking those down into the building blocks to actually build the hormones that you need and give the body the support to wash the receptor sites so that when you stimulate the hormones, you can actually receive them. So there is a lot of madness to my method. But I think that looking at the body holistically, looking at ways to support the body and then build on that trust that you've gained and then ask the body to do something that actually nourishes and flourishes it, and then cycling back to gaining the support of the body, to asking the body to release historical fats, and then stimulating the mystery that's the hormones. And cycling through that follows the body's natural rhythm. And each week you build upon the week before, and you get healthier and healthier week after week. So the Fast Metabolism Diet is designed to support the holistic you, but it's designed to support it in a way that we take baby steps to success, and that each step along the way builds more and more confidence and more health, and your body's ability to resolve metabolic dysfunction becomes easier and easier. So I hope that helps. Enjoy.